Hello students, I am here with another video from the chapter Magnetic Effect of Electric Current of class 10th from NCERT book. Before starting today's video, I would like to tell you all that so far we have discussed about magnetism, the types of magnets, then we have also discussed about the properties of magnetism, then magnetic field, in which magnetic field lines are also being discussed. Then we have discussed about the magnetic field around a straight current carrying conductor and also around the looped conductors. Now in the last class I have discussed about the solenoid and the magnetic field around the solenoid. Also we have discussed about the electromagnetism and its various applications in the daily life. So now today I am going to discuss about the force on a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field. Now as we know that a magnetic field is an area around a current carrying conductor, or it is around a magnet. Now we are discussing about the effects of current, that is the magnetic effect of current, that once the current is flowing in a conductor, it is going to give rise to certain magnetism. Now we are going to discuss about the force is also acting on that conductor in a magnetic field or not. Okay, so is the force acting on it or not? So we have learned that electric current flowing through a conductor produces a magnetic field. Okay, so the magnetic field so produced also exerts a force on a magnet which is placed in the closely by the conductor, which is closely placed of the conductor. Now this was first being told by the French scientist called A.M. Ampere. Okay, so his name was Andre Marie Ampere. So on which the unit of current is also based, that is ampere. He suggested that the magnet must also exert an equal and opposite force in the current carrying conductor. The force due to magnetic field acting on a current carrying conductor can be demonstrated by the activity which is given here, which is given as follows. So he suggested that the current carrying conductor also produces a magnetic field and exerts a force on a magnet. Now this was seen with the help of the example which is given here, So it is also given in your NCERT book as activity number 13.7. So the activity goes like this. We have to take one small aluminium rod. Okay, in this way, this small aluminium rod has to be taken. Now we have to connect the connecting wires suspended, and it is to be suspended horizontally from the stand. Okay, so this is the stand which has to be placed, which has to be hung with the help of the conducting wires. Now what we have to do, we have to connect that stand with the help of battery and a switch. Okay, so that a circuit is maintained. Now we have to place a strong horseshoe magnet in such a way that the rod lies in between the two poles of the magnetic field directed upwards. Okay, so this magnetic field, so this horseshoe magnet has to be placed in such a way at one end of the rod so that it could experience a large amount of magnetic field. Okay, now we have to put the north pole of the magnet vertically below and south pole vertically above the aluminium rod. North pole just above and south pole just below the aluminium rod. So magnetic field will be from north towards south. As we know that it is the property of magnetic field lines, it is a property of magnetic field that it is going to be generated from the north and it ends in south. Okay, now we have to connect this aluminium rod. We have already connected this. We have to switch it on now, and we have to observe what is happening in the rod. So rod also starts, we can see that rod is also getting displaced. Once this horseshoe magnet is placed near the rod, this aluminium rod is going to be displaced from its place. Now again what we have to do, we have to reverse the direction of current flowing through the rod and observe the direction of displacement. Now this was towards the next opposite to the first one. So here This example, this experiment is given in very short, that if an aluminum rod is suspended horizontally by a wire between the poles of a horseshoe magnet and the current is placed through the wire, then the aluminum rod is displaced. If the direction of the current is reversed, the direction of the displacement also reversed. This shows that a force is also is exerted maximum if the conductor is perpendicular in the magnetic field. Okay, so the displacement of the rod in this activity suggests that force is also exerted on a current carrying aluminum rod when it is placed in the magnetic field. So please remember that there will be a force which will be acting on this rod when it is placed in a strong magnetic field. So this which is going to displace this rod. It also suggests the direction of force. Direction of force is also reversed. Okay, force is reversed. How it is reversed? When the direction of current of the conductor is reversed. Now once you are going to just put this battery in the opposite side and you are reversing the direction of current, so this direction of the movement of this rod also is going to be disturbed. So it is going to be in the opposite direction. Now change the direction of magnetic field to vertically downwards by interchanging the poles of magnet. Now secondly, what you have to do, you have to place this magnet upside down. Now north pole should be down at the downside and south pole should be at the above side in the on that suspended aluminum rod. Okay, now what you have to do, you will see that it once again it is observed that the direction of force acting on the current carrying rod gets reversed. Okay, so it shows that the direction of the force of the conductor depends upon, so the direction of the force acting on the conductor or the rod is depending upon the direction of current on which it is dependent. So this force is dependent on the direction of current. Okay, it is dependent on the direction of current, and it is also dependent upon the direction of magnetic field. Okay, so this on the two things it is depending. One is the current, okay, and other one is the magnetic field. Fine. So this is how the magnetic field, the force is dependent upon these two things, and the experiments have also shown that the displacement of the rod is largest. It is the largest, or the magnitude of the force is highest when the direction of the current is at the right angle to the direction of the magnetic field. So three things we have discussed, that the angle, the displacement of the rod was maximum at the right angle, and it depends upon two things. The two things were the direction of the current and the direction of the magnetic field. Okay, so three observation has been made from this experiment, that once the direction of this rod was 90 degree, it was placed at 90 degree to this horseshoe magnet, so the displacement was maximum. Okay, next thing we have discussed, that it also exerts a maximum pressure, maximum force when the conductor is when the direction of the current is changed and when the magnetic field is also changed. Okay, direction also is discussing. Now combining the three facts, after combining the three facts, we will consider this in it has become a law, means it was observed in a law. So what was the law? The law was Fleming's left hand rule. So Fleming has seen that when we consider the direction of the current and that of the magnetic field is perpendicular to each other. Okay, so what he considered that the direction of the current and the magnetic field is perpendicular to each other, and has found that force is also perpendicular to both of them. Okay, so that these three directions can be illustrated by a simple rule that is known as Fleming's left hand rule. Now what does this Fleming's left hand rule says? It says that when we stretch the thumb, the forefinger, means the first index finger, and the middle finger in such a way that they are at 90 degrees to each other. Okay, so they are at 90 degrees to each other. Please see that how is this finger stretched. So then what will happen? They're perpendicular, they are mutually perpendicular to each other. Now if the forefinger points in the direction of magnetic field, so this forefinger is going to give the direction of magnetic field, and the middle finger is going to, the second finger or the middle finger is going to point the direction of the current, and then the left hand's thumb is going to show you the force which is acting on the current carrying conductor. Okay, so please remember this law. This is a very important law, or this is very important rule, which we will discuss when we are going to see the when we are going to observe the working of electric motor. Okay, so devices are also used on, they are also made on this rule, that is Fleming's left hand rule, and we could observe it very carefully when we are reading about the electric motor, working of the motor. Okay, so what does this Fleming's rule states? That this Fleming's rule states that if we hold the thumb, please remember the names of the fingers which are going to be applied for this Fleming's left hand rule. So you are going to stretch the finger of your left hand. How many fingers? 3. This one is thumb, the forefinger means the first one, this, and the middle finger of the left hand. It is perpendicular to each other such that the forefinger points the direction of magnetic field. Okay, direction of magnetic field, this one, it is going to point the direction of magnetic field, and the middle finger points the direction of the current, that is I. Then the thumb shows the direction of the force acting on, or the force or motion of the conductor. Okay, when force is applied, then it is going to be seen in the form of the displacement. Okay, so how you are going to find out? So if suppose that the magnetic field is placed in this direction, in the right direction, and the direction of the current is flowing through in this way, then in which direction the magnetic field will be, the force will be acting on the upper side. Okay, this is how we are going to apply this left hand rule in the working of various appliances. So please remember that you have to stretch the fingers of the left hand, you have to stretch 2 fingers and 1 thumb of your left hand, that is the forefinger, the middle finger, and your thumb. So the thumb is going to point the direction of force, then middle finger is going to point the direction of current, and the forefinger is going to point the direction of the magnetic field. So please remember this rule. Okay, we'll apply this. Next thing is, okay, before discussing this next thing, we are going to discuss about the fact, we are continuously discussing that current is producing the effect, that is the magnetic effect, in this chapter we are studying about the magnetic effect. So we are going to discuss about it only. Now till now I have told you that the current is producing this magnetic effect. Now, is this possible that the magnetic effect is going to produce the current? Are you getting it? So here it is being said that till now I am discussing about only the fact that magnetism is produced when the current is flowing. So is it true that when we are having a magnetic field, then can that magnetic field produce the current also? So the next topic or the next word will be electromagnetic induction. So this is the fact, this is the word, or this was introduced by this fact only, that yes, the magnetism can also produce current. Okay, as the current is producing magnetism, vice versa is also possible. That possibility is it that whenever the magnetism is produced, it also produces a current in a very small amount, and that current is known as the induced current. So what is there in this electromagnetic induction? So this electromagnetic induction was first told by this Michael Faraday. So here we have always studied when the current carrying conductor is placed in the magnetic field such that the direction of the current is perpendicular to the magnetic field, it experiences a force. Just now I have discussed this in Fleming's left hand rule. This force causes the conductor to move. Now imagine a situation that when a conductor is moving inside a magnetic field, or magnetic field is changing around a fixed conductor, both are the same thing. Suppose that this rod is there and you are placing this rod inside a conductor, inside a magnetic field. Solenoid can be the thing which can produce a magnetic effect. Okay, any wire which could produce a magnetic effect. So what will be the effect, what will happen? So this was studied by English physicist whose name was Michael Faraday. In 1831, this Michael Faraday made an important breakthrough by discovering how moving magnets can be used in generating the electric currents. Now, this was observed by performing the activity. The activity is given here also, and it is also given in your NCERT book as activity number 13.8. You can read it from there, and I'll discuss it here in short. Okay. So, the motion of the magnet with respect to the coil, or a change in the magnetic field, induces a potential difference in the coil and produces an induced current. This is called electromagnetic induction. So electromagnetic induction means that the current is produced with the help of magnetism. Okay, current is produced with the help of magnetism, and that current is called induced current. And this phenomenon is known as electromagnetic induction. Okay, now what is this electromagnetic induction? I hope everybody has understood that whenever the electric field is there, it is going to generate the magnetic effect, as well as the vice versa is observed that when the magnetic field is there, and if you are moving it is moved around a fixed conductor, it is going to produce a current that is known as induced current. Now this is also has a very practical applications in our daily life. Now first let us see how is this induced current or electromagnetic induction can be seen with the help of this experiment. This experiment is very simple, which is written here. So if a magnet is moved, or it is moved towards or away from a coil of wire connected to a galvanometer. Now what the setup was, we have to take one solenoid. This solenoid is there, this coil is there, in which one galvanometer was attached. Okay, now we will not use any battery or switch. Okay, the only simple thing is that we have to connect this wire, we have to connect this solenoid with the help of a galvanometer. Now this galvanometer is galvanometer is a device which is going to tell you, it is an instrument which is going to detect the presence of current in a circuit. Okay, so the pointer remains at 0 and at the center of the scale. Now for zero current, it means that zero current is flowing. Now whenever it is going to deflect either to left or right of the zero mark, it depends upon the direction of current in which it is produced. Okay, so this deflection needle is always at 0. So in this galvanometer is an instrument which is going to detect the current, and how much amount of current is flown, that is detected by ampere. Okay, that is detected by ammeter. So please remember that. And potential difference is measured by voltmeter. So remember these three words, these three devices. The first one is galvanometer, the next was the next is the ammeter, and the third one is the voltmeter. Please remember the words. Okay, so this galvanometer is written in the form in this way. The symbol will be G in the circle. So this is how this galvanometer is connected. This galvanometer is connected in the circuit, where the circuit of the coil is there, and in this coil you have to just insert a magnet, and you have to move the magnet in and out from this coil. So what will happen if you are moving a magnet inside this coil? Now what is shown in this galvanometer? We will see a deflection in this galvanometer once the movement of the coil of this magnet is inside this solenoid. Okay, fine. So if a magnet is moved towards or away from the wire connected to a galvanometer, the galvanometer's needle is going to show you the deflection. This shows that a current is induced in the coil due to the motion of the magnet. Now we here in this experiment, when the coil is there, in this coil, when the magnet is inserted, when it is moved inside the coil, then only the deflection was seen. Okay, once it was moved out, then also deflection was seen. No deflection was seen when the coil was not in motion, means it was stopped, it was not in motion, so no deflection was seen. Just by putting this magnet near to this coil was not producing the was not generating the induced current. It was generated only when this coil this magnet was in motion, when this magnet was in continuous motion, okay, in this continuous movement. So the experiment of this NCERT book also says the same thing, that you have to take a coil having large number of turns. Simply we have to take one solenoid, okay. Now connect, we have to connect the end of this coil with a galvanometer, okay, as it is shown here in this diagram. Now we have to take a strong bar magnet and move its north pole towards the inside end, okay. We have to take one magnet and we have to move this magnet inside this coil by facing north inside, okay. Now what we have to do, we will find the deflection in the galvanometer. Again, the momentary deflection is also seen when towards right side. Suppose that it moves towards right side. Now what happened when you withdraw that magnet from inside to outside, means you are moving this south pole outside, okay. From the south pole you're moving it outside. Again you have to see that you will see that galvanometer is moving on the next direction, which was opposite to the direction of the first magnetic field, okay. Now we have to place this magnet stationary at a point near the coil, keeping the north pole towards the end. I told you that you have to, there will be no deflection observed in this galvanometer when the magnet was not moving. Till the time the magnet was in continuous motion, you will be able to see the deflection in the galvanometer, okay. So there was no movement in the magnet, no current was flown. So when the coil is kept stationary with respect to the magnet, the deflection of the galvanometer drops to 0, means there was no observation and no current is flown. So we have also checked when if you have moved the south pole of the magnet towards the end of the coil, it also shows the deflection, but it was opposite to the previous one. So this was recorded. So what were the observation? The observations were, the first observation was that when the movement of the magnet is taking place inside the solenoid, the deflection was seen. Now the deflection was towards one side, and when the movement of the magnet was outside this coil, the deflection was just opposite to the first one, okay. So both the things were clear. And the third observation was that till the time the magnet was moving, the current was shown, and once the magnet stops moving, there will be no induced current generated in the coil, okay. So this activity was performed when by Michael Faraday, and he told that an induced current is generated when the magnet is kept on moving. Similarly, when the next activity was there, that when are you able to generate any magnetic field when this conductor is moving. So whether a current is produced when you are moving this conductor. So both the times it is possible, whether you are moving this conductor on the stationary magnet, okay, you have to put the magnet stationary and you have to move this coil in and out from this magnet. So you are moving this coil, then also current was generated, and in this situation also, when the movement of magnet was there, this coil was stationary. Both the things are possible, but it is not very much possible to take the complete setup to move this solenoid. So we are not moving this solenoid, we are just keeping the solenoid stationary, and we are moving this magnet around, magnet in and out from the loop of that solenoid. So both the things were possible, okay. Now next experiment was the change in the magnetic field produced by the change in the magnetic field, which is produced magnetic field produced induced current, okay. Now is the magnetic field, when it is changing, is going to produce the induced current or not? You have to take two wires and wound around a cylindrical paper roll, okay. Now connect one coil with a battery and another coil with a galvanometer. One we have to connect with a battery and another coil we have to connect with a galvanometer. If the current is passed in the first coil, means here the current was passed, then what you will see that there is deflection in the galvanometer. How is this galvanometer getting disturbed? There is how the deflection is seen in the second coil because of galvanometer could be detected. Now once the current is disconnected, the needle the needle of the galvanometer was placed in the opposite, was moving in the opposite direction. This shows that the current can also be induced due to the change in the magnetic field. You can change this you can change in the magnetic field by passing the different amount of current by placing different voltage of the batteries, so that it could produce a various changes in the magnetic field which could be observed in this galvanometer. Okay, so this is how a galvanometer looks like. Now this coil, this experiment is also given in your NCERT book as activity number 13.9. So you have to perform this various activity by placing the magnet by a current carrying coil, and the current carrying coil can be varied. So here two types of coils are taken, coil 1 and coil 2, which with a different with the two means coils of different copper wire. Okay, means two different coils are taken. Take two different copper wire coils having a large number of turns, means say 50 or 100 turns respectively. Now insert this over a non-conducting cylindrical roll, as here it is given as a paper roll. Okay, now it was a non-conducting, then also it was producing a magnetic current was also induced. Okay, please remember this. So we are winding this coil around a non-conducting paper, means around an insulator. So here it is given a cylindrical paper roll which could not conduct electricity, but still we were finding the deflection in the galvanometer. Okay, so connect the coil 1 with a battery, okay, with a plug, and another coil 2 was connected with a galvanometer. Here you have to plug in, as you have to plug the key in, you will observe that the galvanometer is showing the deflection in the needle. Now once the current is stopped, then what will happen? Once the battery is disconnected from the coil 1, you will see that there will be the deflection in the needle. That needle is going to move momentarily. Okay, so this was opposite to the direction of the first one. This means that now the current flows in the opposite direction in coil 2. Means once the current is switched off, then also it is going to move to some extent. That movement was because of the momentary, that is known as the momentary movement. Okay, so this activity is observed soon when the current in the coil 1 reaches either to a steady value or 0. Okay, then galvanometer in the coil 2 shows deflection. From these observation, we conclude that the potential difference is induced in coil B whenever the electric current is passed through coil 1 is changing. Okay, means starting and stopping. If once you are starting, you are moving, you are having a different potential difference, and once you are stopping, you are changing the potential difference. So two times the potential difference is being changed. That is why we are obtaining 2 times deflection in this galvanometer once the current is stopped, once the current is switched on. So as the current in the first coil changes, the magnetic field associated with it also changes. Thus the magnetic field lines around the secondary coil also changes. Hence the change in the magnetic field lines associated with the secondary coil is causing the induced electric current in it. This process by changing the magnetic field in the conductor induces a current in another conductor, that is called electromagnetic induction. Okay, this is known as electromagnetic induction. So this magnetic field is this was known as electromagnetic induction. Okay, magnetic induction. So please remember that once the coil is having the potential difference, or the current is present in the first coil, it is going to be induced in the second coil. It is going to influence the second coil. So that influenced current is known as induced current, and this process is known as electromagnetic induction. So in this practice, we can induce current in the coil either by moving the coil, by moving the magnetic field. We are moving this magnetic field, means the first experiment, this one, we are moving the magnetic field because we are moving this magnet, or by moving this or by changing the magnetic field around it, or by changing the magnetic field by doing this experiment, as we are changing the amount of current. So magnetic field amount will also be changed. Now it is convenient in most situation to move a coil in a magnetic field. Okay, so magnetic field is kept constant, you can move the coil very easily. So that was present, that was seen in another practical application, that was electric generator. Okay, so we'll discuss it again in electric generator. Now this induced current is also found to be highest when the direction of the motion of the coil is at right angle to the magnetic field. When this coil was moving at right angle, then then the induced current was at its highest. It was seen that highest amount of induced current was obtained. Okay, so when it was obtained, when the direction of the motion of the coil was at right angle to the magnetic field. In this situation, we can use another simple rule, which is known as Fleming's right hand rule. Okay, that is known as Fleming's right hand rule. Now you have to stretch your right hand's finger, same 3 fingers will be stretched. That it states that, okay, now here in this, the direction of induced current is given by the Fleming's right hand rule, and in the left hand rule the force was given, the direction of the motion of the coil was given. Okay, so please remember what is the difference between Fleming's left hand rule and the right hand rule, but rest of the things will remain same. It states that if the thumb, forefinger and the middle finger of your right hand is held perpendicular to each other, means it is at 90 degrees to each other. Now what you are going to observe, your thumb is going to point the direction of motion of the conductor. Okay, your force is going to be at the thumb region, and the forefinger is going to point the direction of the magnetic field, as well as the middle finger is going to point the direction of the induced current. So this induced current is going to be given by a mid finger. Okay, so please remember these two rules, which is based upon your extension of your stretching of your right hand fingers and the left hand fingers. Okay, so right hand rule will be applied when you have to find out the direction of induced current, and when you have to find out the direction of force or motion of the coil, then you will apply this Fleming's left hand rule. Okay, for electric generator we are going to apply the Fleming's right hand rule, and when we are going to apply when we have to when we know the direction of induced current, then when we have to know the direction of induced current, we will apply this Fleming's right hand rule, and once we have to apply the Fleming's left hand rule, we will apply by using then we have to find out the motion of the current carrying conductor. Okay, so these two will be observed when the direction of the current will be these two will be observed when we are going to study about the electric motor and the generator. Okay, now before that, just let us read about this direct and alternating current, DC and AC. Okay, direct current and alternating current. So direct current, that is DC, a current that is always flowing in one direction only. So this is known as the direct current, when it is going to flow in one direction only. Now what is alternating current? The alternating current okay, now this one example of this direct current is that the current which we get from the battery is a direct current, which flowing only in one direction. Now if the current is reversing its direction periodically, it is known as alternating current. Okay, now most of the power station in our country produces alternating current, that is AC changes direction every 1/100 seconds, and its frequency is 50 hertz. This is going to change. Okay, this is going to change. So one advantage of AC over DC is that it can be transmitted over a long distance without much loss of energy. Okay, so this is the one of the advantage of alternating current, that it could be produced, when it is produced, it could be moved through a larger distance by avoiding any kind of loss. Okay, so this is about the alternating and the direct current. So direct current is produced by the motor, and when we are going to generate, we are using the generator, alternating current is produced. Okay, now next is the domestic electric circuit, which we are going to discuss. Is this you can see the the diagram of this domestic electric circuit, which is showing you that electric power in the home is supplied through the main. it has two wires. One is the live wire, that is the positive, that is red, which is having red in color, red insulation. It is not red in color, it is having a red insulation. And the other one is the neutral wire, or which is known as negative wire, which is black in color. Next, the potential difference between these two wires is about 220 volt. Then only the current will be flowing. The earth wire is green in color, which with the green insulation, which is connected to a metallic plate kept underground, okay, kept in the ground. So this is how the wire is placed. You could see the two wire, one is live wire, another one is the neutral wire, that is black in color, and this green wire is going to be placed in the ground, that is known as earth wire or earthing. Now what is the use of these three wires? Well, first one is going to maintain these two, live wire and the neutral wire is going to maintain the potential difference across the circuit, and this ground wire or this green colored wire, which is the insulating which is the earth wire, is going to give you the it is going to pass the extra current which is passed to it, okay. Extra current is passed to any circuit. Now we have to two separate circuits are used. One is 15 ampere circuits, appliances with a high power rating like geyser, air conditioners, etc. The other is 5 ampere, that is about for the fans and the bulb, etc. The different appliances are connected to parallel so that every appliance gets an equal voltage, okay. Please remember, so series will not be used, only the parallel connections are used so that each and every appliance is going to work properly. Even if one is switched off, another one is not affected, okay. You are not going to join the bulb and your tube light, your fans with only one switch or in a one single circuit. Why? Because you in the daytime you might require fan but you don't require light, okay. So this is how you are going to use, that is why you are going to use a parallel connection for the appliances, so that it is one is switched off and the other one is remain unaffected. So if the appliance having a metallic body like electric iron, refrigerator, etc., their metallic body is connected to the earth wire so that if there is leakage of the current, it passes directly to the earth by thereby preventing the electric shock. So this is the use of this earth wire, which is going to take the extra current to the ground, okay. So here see, you could see this is circuit diagram which is given here, as it is also given in your NCERT book. You could draw either of these two diagrams. So main fuse is there, then meter is there, then from the meter it is going inside your home, which is the distribution box, or nowadays MCBs are used. From that MCBs these lines are going. So here you can see the various appliances are being connected. One is being connected to the live wire, other one is connected to both live neutral wire as well as the earth wire, so that whether any extra current is passed to it, it is going to reach in the ground directly. So this is the use of the fuse in your house, this is the use of the main supply, and this is how the domestic circuit is being prepared. So in this domestic circuit, please remember that we always use the parallel connection, we are not using the series connection, okay. Now next is that what is the use of this electric fuse. So electric fuse is a safety device which is used in the electric circuits to protect the circuit and the appliances from the damage due to overloading and short circuit, okay. Now new two words are there, that is overloading and short circuit. So if the wire is having high resistance and low melting point, so in this wire means in this fuse what is present, there is one wire which is having a low melting point, okay. There is low melting point, no low melting point, okay. Why there is no melting point? Because once the high amount of current is passed, excess amount of current is flowing through this circuit, this fuse wire is going to melt and it is going to be broken down. So once this fuse wire is broken down, then what will happen? It is going to cut the supply of the current in your house. So this fuse wire is made from a metal or an alloy of metals like lead or tin or aluminum and copper. Fuse wire is connected in the series with a live wire. Why? Because once the extra amount of current is flown, it is going to be disconnecting your appliances so that your appliances remain safe. Next, what is overloading? Overloading is caused due to the increase in the voltage, or if the live wire or the neutral wire comes together in contact, then too many appliances are connected in a single socket. It results in overheating of the wires and also causes a damage in the circuit of the appliances. This is called overloading. It gets heated up. Next, what is short circuit? When this short circuit is observed, when the live wire and the neutral wire comes in contact, then sudden increase in the circuit is when the sudden increase in the current takes place in the circuit, it causes a spark, fire and damage to the circuit and the appliances. So this is what is about the short circuit is there, where once when the positive and the negative wire comes, means when the live wire and the neutral wire comes together, it results in the breakage. It results in the breakage of the wire. Sometimes wire don't break, they just catch fire and they could damage the complete house. It could break out into a fire. Okay, so please remember that we should avoid the condition of overloading, where many appliances are connected to a single socket, which could cause overheating of that socket and may result in overloading. Overloading may result in short circuit. Okay, an electric fuse is the device which is going to prevent overloading as well as the short circuit. Fine. So this electric fuse, also we have already discussed this sometimes, I think before, in the last class, that was last chapter, that was about the electric current and its effects in the which we have discussed previously. So something I have discussed it here. I think both the information, if you are going to combine, it will be enough for you all for studying this electric fuse. So please remember the construction of this electric fuse, the working of this electric fuse, and why we are advantage of using this electric fuse. Okay, and also we should know about this overloading as well as the short circuit. The next thing we will be discussing about the two major use of the Fleming's right and the left hand rule. That is the major use of the current which is going to produce the induced current, that will be studied under electric generator, and we are going to see the device, that is motor, which is going to generate the direct current. So we will see the application, working, construction in the next class of this chapter. Now today we have discussed about the experiment which was done by Michael Faraday, the experiment which was done by the Ampere. Okay, in this we have discussed about the force which is applied on a current carrying conductor, as well as we have studied about the induced current in the electromagnetic induction, and also about the Faraday's experiment. Then we studied about two rules, that is Fleming's left hand rule and Fleming's right hand rule. Lastly, we have just now discussed about the domestic circuit as well as the three main points of fuse, overloading and the short circuit. So that's all for today. I'll meet you all in the next video with the next lecture to be discussed.